very interestingly, I call it a value of despair, right? So once you invest in a company, and that company would take 10 years to build, right? And the interesting thing is that the successful companies will only start showing results after 5 to 7 years. But the companies which are not going to survive will start dying in 2 to 3 years, right? So from this 3 year to the 7 year period, I call it a value of despair, right? You start feeling, yeah, what am I doing? And especially when you don't have a lot of precedence, and don't have a lot of people who are experienced in telling you how this angel investing industry works, it becomes even more difficult.
Hi everyone, I'm your host Siddharth Aluwalia. Before we dive deep into this week's conversation, I would like to thank our sponsors, Prime Venture Partners. Prime is a high conviction, high support investor backing star teams with differentiated ideas. All partners at Prime work actively with the entrepreneurs post investment to accelerate building a great company. Prime focuses on building differentiating companies whose solutions are 10x better and are powered by technology and product. Prime is now investing from its fourth fund of $100 million dollars and is often the first institutional investor in category creating tech startups such as Quizzes, MoneyTap, Neo, and Dozy. To know more about Prime, visit primebp.in. Today, I have with me Abhishek Rungta, founder of Indus Net and founder of Seeders, a micro VC fund. Abhishek, welcome to the 100x Entrepreneur Podcast. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Siddharth. Thanks for having me here.
Abhishek, though, would like to start with your entrepreneurial journey. How do you become an entrepreneur, right? And tell us something about your family. Was it always into business, or and you come from Kolkata, which is very different from the usual startup cities of India. So, would love to know about you growing up.
Sure, Siddharth. So I come from a business family. So my father has been into jute trading, and we work with jute mills. But again, when I got into my college days itself, I got introduced to internet, and within few months, I realized that this is where my destiny lies, because I found the opportunity to be immense. When you think about connected people, and connected servers, connected data. I think that somehow kind of gave me that feeling that this is the area where I want to be. And I kind of took the plunge and started IndusNet as a business. And obviously, there has been the usual ups and downs of every entrepreneur that I have gone through. And it was completely bootstrapped, starting from one client and reinvesting that money to build the company over and over again over years. And that is where we stand today. So starting from almost negligible amount of cash, we built a company which currently does around 11 million US dollars in revenue, and very decent healthy profit margins. So it's a bootstrap profitable business that we have built. And the business today, again, it has gone through multiple cycles, as you know, Siddharth. And technology businesses don't remain the same over a period of time. So it has gone through 3 4 different cycles altogether. Not taking you through all that, but today we stand as a integrated product engineering company for banks, insurance, and pharma companies.
And it's been almost 24 years since you have been building IndusNet.
Yeah, it's 24
And
years of work, yes. And again, Calcutta, as you rightly said, is a very different market. It's a tough market to build a technology company, to be honest, and more so, a global technology company. So it has taken its own time, and I have not rushed through it. Of course, the biggest challenge that we find in building a company in Kolkata is the lack of exposure and the lack of talent. So that has definitely, kind of slowed us down, but it has not bogged us down to be, for sure. So it's a continuous journey, and I have also started kind of working with other entrepreneurs in the city to build more companies. So 6 years back, I also acquired a company, partnered with the founder, and kind of started building another company called TechShoe. I also did a joint venture, and worked as a co-founder in another startup, which is into data analytics and predictive maintenance. So I have been through building these multiple companies, because I feel that the challenge of the city is, of course, as I said, exposure and availability of talent. And I think I'm able to solve that to some extent. I would not say a big extent, but whatever I can do, I'm trying my best.
And tell us about, how did you go about acquiring a global client base, right? And if you can share, right, the distribution of your clients across geographies in IndusNet.
Oh, sure. So, again, it was in 2001. Obviously, just after the dot com bust, the market was really bad. And if you are into technology or if you are into IT, people would actually look down upon you, to be very honest, at that time. And that was the time when I started actually, scaling up. I came back after my master's in 2000. And in 2001, I started scaling up, and it was very difficult time. I would go and visit clients and do my pitches, but nobody is ready to sign up. And my turnover was like as low as 5,000 rupees a month at one point in time, and very very frustrated. And then one day, I kind of just walking towards my office, I remembered that I did a small gig when I was in college, and that gig came from a person who was on a one of the discussion forums, online discussion forums. And I said, if I could have got that deal of 200 pound, so many years back, I mean, almost like 2000, 1999, 2000, things must have come a long way from then since now. And this is a great time for me to kind of look at a global market, because if there are not people are not interested in using technology in India, in Kolkata at that time, I'm sure that the world is not the same. And I started looking outside, went online, and I get into these kind of a scrums, like, so I get into the sprint, I would say, for 3 4 days. So I was like on internet for 3 4 days, searching how you can generate business online. Today you call it digital marketing, but I learned it all in those 3 4 deep work days, I would say. And I started getting business, and generating business, doing it, generating reputation, generating references. So everything that you kind of combine and call talk digital marketing, I did it around 2001. And at one point of time, after doing this, I was generating around 35 web design deals a month, sorry, a day. And it was like crazy, and that gave us the initial impetus and cash flow to build the business.
And you started IndusNet while you were in college, right? You mentioned that
Yeah,
2001 you came out of your master's.
yeah. That's right.
Awesome.
So I started when I was in my bachelor degree. So I was in second year when I started in '97. I started Indus Net. To be honest, at that time it was more of a hobby, but then eventually kind of discovered that it's much more than a hobby, and this is where I want to build my career. And by the time I did my masters and came out by 2000 and 2001 beginning, I think I was pretty sure that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
And how did your journey got started into angel investing? Uh, who introduced you to angel investing and in which year?
Okay, so it's a very interesting story. So 2010, Pallav, who's a very close friend, like a brother to me, he came to Calcutta. He just recently shifted to Bangalore, and he came to Kolkata, and he said, ki, I have been introduced to this beautiful world of angel investing. Would you like to consider it? Discover this? And I said, why not? And we sat together. I tried to understand what it is all about, and I think within hours, sitting in a cafe, in near our office, we decided that we are doing it. And right in the cafe itself, we crowdsourced the name for the business also, and we kind of started calling it Cedars from that day. And after that, obviously, we were again introduced more into all this, because Palla was already in Bangalore, so he knew a lot of people. But then I came to Bangalore I think it's first or second demo day of Morpheus Gang, and Samir Guglani, a very very dear friend, and I think an amazing human being. He walked me through and he explained what it's all about and how it works, and I was like totally hooked to it. And the demo day was like a totally different experience for me. I learned a lot, and I said, I think this is something I would love to do.
And then how, like, can you share us about the first five companies that you invested in?
Okay, sure. So yeah, so first five companies. So once we kind of started saying that we are interested in investing in early stage companies, we started getting a lot of pitches, and we started meeting people. So the first five pitches, most of the company were purely in idea stage. In fact, all the five companies I think were in idea stage. They have not done much before we invested in them. I think back in 2010, 11. you would invest in idea stage companies if you like the founder. And we did some of them. One was called Edora, which was on the education sector and tech sector. I think they were quite ahead of its time. We did invested a very small check, and I was like absolutely shocked by the resilience of the founder, Nagarjun. And he was like he carried that money, a very small check of 10 lakhs. He kind of carried it for years and years and years. Like, and I was said like, how can someone really extend that kind of a small check for years? And he did all his, I mean, he gave his all, right? But obviously it was not a great success. Another very big an interesting deal we did was at that time was Cropin. They used to call themselves Cropex. I think this was the second or third deal we did. And I still remember that we did the deal at Pallav's house almost like midnight. And this guy comes and we kept discussing, and we finally said, okay, let's do it. Again, very very early stage. And we were talking about using tabs and using IoT at that time, how you use tabs to kind of collect data from farm and help them provide better quality yield. And we were hooked onto it. We did invested, and of course cropping became huge, and it is still doing great. And I love seeing both the founders, Krishna and Kumar, is they are doing, still they are going with all their energy, they are building the company. I recently kind of exited that couple of 1 year back. But I mean, I'm always tracking them and always cheering up for them. We also did a deal. So now this was the good one. This was possibly one of the top ones. But at the same time, we were also thinking about can we invest in a company and see about dividend yield? And that was the biggest mistake we did. We invested in a company where we thought we will get some dividend yield, and you learn through those mistakes. And we figured out that it doesn't work in this industry, and we said that. So since then, we are kind of absolutely strict no to any deal of that sort. So that was one. We also invested in a car tech company. Of course, we see that the car tech has arrived now, but I think that company was also a little ahead of its time, so could not sustain the momentum till the time car tech becomes mainstream. So fundamentally, what I found that we made a lot of mistakes. We were very very eager to write checks, and we did a lot of investment at that time. But I think God has been kind, and also I think some of the future visualization that we did at that time played out in our favor, and we got some great exits also. So over and overall, like I think it went great for us.
And can you share, right, how many companies you have invested till now in total?
Okay, so it's many companies. So that was the first phase of investing that we did. In which in most of the companies, me and Palla were together, like literally like a small fund, and we did around 20 odd companies in a short period of 2 to 3 years. Then I found that it's getting a little boring because there is no action. Very interestingly, I call it a value of despair, right? So once you invest in a company, and the company would take 10 years to build, right? And the interesting thing is that the successful companies will only start showing results after 5 to 7 years, but the companies which are not going to survive will start dying in 2 to 3 years, right? So from this 3 year to the 7 year period, I call it a value of despair, right? You start feeling here, what am I doing? And especially when you don't have a lot of precedents, and don't have a lot of people who are experienced in telling you how this angel investing industry works, it becomes even more difficult. And so I said कि यार मतलब ठीक है, I invested but इसमें कुछ होने का नहीं है. So I reduced my investments. I did not shut it off. I was doing then 1 to 2 deals a year, and I started saying that कि let me invest in the best company that comes to me in that year. And another interesting thing that we learned in that period is that if you start deploying your capital too quickly, then you kind of get into this valley of despair much faster. And that was also a very interesting learning. And there were a lot of deals that came to us after 2012-13 that we actually left. And since I left those deals, I still kind of say that my anti portfolio can kind of make me a billionaire. Definitely a billionaire for sure. But that anti portfolio kind of kept growing because I kind of came out of the market. So I deployed the capital and came out of the market because I was deploying capital very fast. I was writing big checks, so my check size would be 25, 40 lakhs, like and just and those were in idea stage companies, so you can understand. So that was a very interesting learning in that period. Then in 2018-19, I kind of again started picking up because my company was very well settled. I was having a lot of time. I would say I was having almost like 4 hours a day available to me to invest and do these different things. And I started investing again. I discovered the US, network for investing, and that was like absolutely fascinating. That took me to a totally different plane altogether, and started interacting with founders there. And I also discovered the syndicate lead concept, where people were kind of leading investments. I started building relationship with these lead investors. I kind of invested almost like 70 odd companies in a very short period of 1.5 year from then. Some of them were direct, some of them through other leads. And but again, for every deal, I had my own personal investment thesis. I would kind of write down my pointers. I would not write a long letter, but I would write down pointers. And my way to look at those deals were like, if I have to paint the future 10 year hence, like what kind of businesses would be key in running that future, in will be playing a key role in that future. And that kind of was the guiding principle for me in looking at the right sector, and then looking at founders who have at least built one company in past, which I know is very similar to your thesis as well. And that has worked out well. And in so in 2021, I started my syndicate also with my friends, Alkesh, Suresh, Pallav, Parthiv, and it has done well. We have done around 10 deals since. So in total, if I see, I have done more than 100 deals, and since the beginning.
And how many exits would you have taken till now in those 100 plus companies?
So I think majority of this 100 plus deals that I have done has happened in recent times, but the around 30 odd deals that happened between 2010 to 2017-18, I have got that was around 28 odd deals, out of which I have got honorable great exits in around four of them. I have got honorable exit in around another four of them. So eight
And how do you
in total.
define, what's your exit? Like a 10x plus is an honorable exit, or less than 10x is a good
So
exit?
10x is a star exit for me. Anything above 50x is a superstar exit for me. So I have got one superstar exit. I have got three star exits. Remaining four are more of optics M&A that you have to do if the company is not doing
Yes.
great. But at times you get some money, but at times you don't get anything.
Yeah, yeah. I think Cropin, as you mentioned, right, has been your biggest star uh, exit, right? So, as
Yeah.
an angel, would it have made sense to like continue, or how do you decide when to exit? Because it's a very difficult situation, right? Because this 70x, just a two x multiplier on their valuation would become 140x.
Yes, absolutely. So it is a difficult decision, and I had to take this decision because I wanted to complete the cycle, Siddharth. Because it is very important, whichever business you are in, unless you complete the cycle, you don't understand how this whole thing works, and you can't get the impetus to go to the next level. So I kind of did this exit not because I do not have faith in Cropin for the next phase. As I said, I still track them and I still kind of cheer them from the sidelines. But I think it was very important for me to complete the cycle. And so you start investing, you keep watching the company, you see how it grows, and it comes to a point where you can exit. So I think that was very important for me, and it happened. And yeah, so that is the primary reason I exited.
And it started with you and Pallav, and then you expanded your partners. So, how did you decide on who to bring on as partners and in Seeders? Because today is a five-member partnership.
Yeah. So again, I think for me it is very important that I can be very comfortable with the people I bring on as partners. And again, I am nobody to bring. It evolves, I think, right? So I introduced Sirish to to this world sometime long time back when Let's Venture was raising its round, and I was investing in Let's Venture, and Sirish came along with me. Over a period of time, Alkesh also wanted to invest. He bought back his equity from the P firm, who had invested in their company. So he understands the space from the other side of the table. But obviously, he's a very astute and very, very sharp guy. I mean, one of the friend whom we would always go to take advice about our own business. So I said, if someone can be advising me and a lot of other people. I'm sure he can advise and help a lot of other entrepreneurs. So we kind of started doing this, and then the shape of Cedars evolved further in 2021.
Got it. And until now, as a partnership, you have done 10 companies, invested in 10 companies as
That's right.
seeders. Uh,
Yeah.
and Abhishek, it's been a long journey, right? So if you have to think of top 4 to 5 lessons that you have learned, what would they be?
I think number one any day is that I think your reason for investing in startups should be very clear from the beginning, right? And and that was very clear for me. It was learning, because I found when I met the Morpheus gang for the first time in Bangalore, and then subsequently in Goa and Kerala on their tours. They used to have this very interesting get-togethers. One thing I realized was that is massive learning, right? And someone who's coming from absolutely exposure-starved region of the country, for me it was like godsend, right? So I was here for learning. I was here for working with very smart and amazing people, and that was my reason. So I think the reason for getting involved is very important. Second is, I think everything that you need to do is for the long term, right? So that is, again, that has been my philosophy in my own company, and I think 24 years of bootstrapping shows that. So that same philosophy kind of extended here, and I absolutely enjoyed that. Looking at long term, looking at building over time, looking at compounding in a business, and I think that is very useful. The third thing that I kind of learned here is that there is nothing right or wrong in any business, right? I mean, you can be it's very easy for you to judge people. It's very easy for you to judge a company, but more than often you will be proven wrong, and I have seen that happen with me. So I think I have the whole journey has made me less judgmental about company and people, and I can accept people and companies in their state in a better way, and that has definitely helped me as an individual also. So I would say these are the three bigger learnings, and I think, but most importantly, I think it has made me very patient. It has made me, I would say, better thinker about things around me, and all the time, and it has also kind of given me that power to kind of start thinking about what the future will look like and how things will evolve. I would not say that I love to do prediction, but I love to connect the dots, and see how these dots connected, forward. I know Steve Jobs said that you cannot connect the dots forward; you can connect the dots backward. But I put my frail attempt in, trying to see what trends are emerging, how the world would evolve, and how people would start living in that world. I try to connect the dots and try to see, to paint a picture, that of a world that I would love to live in, and then that kinds of give me enough energy to look at companies who can be playing an important role in that.
And this would be useful for many, our audience listening. How do you balance, right? What kind of, how much percentage of your wealth you want to put into startups, right? And how do you balance it, right, between US stocks, Indian stocks, startups, and
Yeah.
any other asset?
Yeah. So if I have my way, I will put all my wealth in startups. I don't understand any other asset class. Only in 2021, when we were all locked down due to COVID, I started thinking about how the wealth should be deployed, and I kind of figured out a 50-50 formula, that 50% debt, 50% equity, and from that 50% equity, half should go into startups and half should go into the traditional businesses, into stock market. I mean, you might be a little shocked to understand this is the first time in last 6 months is the first time when I have actually looked at stock market ever in my life, and I started investing in some companies. And I think there is a very interesting learning that from the startup world that you can apply on stock market, and I think there are some learnings from stock market that you can apply in startups also. So I'm finding it very interesting, and I'm continually discovering that.
And till you discovered this stock market, what was your major, portfolio of investments? Was it startups still at that point in time?
Mostly startups and fixed deposits, that's it. So either it would
Okay.
be in a safest fixed deposit sitting in a bank, or it will be in startups.
Okay. And in your mind, right, it's been in a long and very a fruitful journey, both as an entrepreneur, as an investor. You have seen, multiple cycles. What do you think, would be keys to wealth creation over a long period of time?
I think it's Siddharth. It's all long term, right? So anything that you are looking at a long term horizon, I think, can create wealth. And of course, investing in the segments of future, businesses of future, as well as people, right? So I think fundamentally, be it my own business, be it startup investing, be it anything, I think it's all about understanding and choosing the right people to bet on. I think that is the biggest skill that anybody needs, in my understanding, is that how do you identify the best people to bet on? I think that is what creates maximum wealth.
But just in couple of meetings, uh, right, the decision to identify whether this person sits in your top 1 percentile of founders, how do you make that? Because it's extremely difficult. uh,
It is difficult. It is difficult. So earlier, I think the early first 50, 30 companies that we did, you used to get a lot of time to literally date the founder, right? You will meet them multiple times. They will also be patient. They will also listen to you, and you will see how they are moving forward, right? So you can monitor them over a period of time, that how they are moving forward, and then take your decision. Unfortunately, this the current run of investment and founders, you don't get that time, and everybody's in a hurry, right? So this is definitely more difficult, and therefore, in this sprint of investing, I'm not able to really invest a lot of. I mean, a lot of times I'm not able to invest in startups with just an idea stage. I mean, I would love to do that in startups which is very early, but right now I have to look at a startup where I am possibly writing the second check, and have seen what they have done with the first check, have seen what how they have grown, and also try to understand their background, do some rough check from people. And therefore, a lot of deals that I have done, a lot of them have come from warm introductions. So yes, this space is becoming a little difficult and different for both sides over time, because the time that you need to really understand if this is the right investor for me, or if this is the right founder for me, that has almost come down to a 15-minute, half an hour, 1 hour pitch. And this is not great, in my opinion. I think you need to definitely bring more time on that front.
and in your journey, if as an investor in startups, if there is couple of things that you could have done differently, what would have been there?
Okay, as a startup, right? So as
Yeah,
building my own business.
as an investor, as an investor in the
As an
last 10
investor,
years.
okay. As an investor, I think network and meet more people. Again, I do not like too much of business travel, though I end up doing it. But I have not really spent a lot of time in going out and meeting a lot of people all over the country. I think I could have met a lot more people, which could have given me more exposure, more connects. I could have met more founders. And second is that, I should have possibly deployed my capital a little comfortably, So I think a lot of investors would do this. That once they discover the fancy world of angel investing, right? They will start writing checks, and they will exhaust the corpus that they have kept for that. And that was one learning that I would definitely take out, because since I exhausted that capital that I kept for writing checks, I missed a lot of amazing companies. I mean, a lot of them you call unicorns today, and I missed a lot of them.
What would be your, let's say, top 5 or 10 anti portfolio?
Oh, that's a long list, man. I said I will become a billionaire if I would have invested in all of them. So I think one was, I think, Oyo. I think I met Ritesh in Delhi in a Thai conference. We discussed, and I could not make up my mind that uh, why would someone sleep in someone else's house, because earlier at that time it was a different business. It was more of something like Airbnb, but obviously he pivoted that. And that was a very interesting learning, that if the founder is great, the founder will pivot and build a great business, right? And that definitely take it as a great learning, that it's not the business model that you invest in, it's the founder that you invest in. And I didn't invest because of the business model, but as you see today, the business model has been pivoted, and he has like grown into an iconic entrepreneur in India, which I have a lot of respect for. And uh, I mean, there are many. So I think in one of the conferences, I still remember I went to Bangalore, which is not very often I do. And I think it was a conference by Your Story. I think I don't remember the name. I think it's quite popular. They do annual conference, and someone came and said that, do you know, someone is coming out of Zoho and starting a company, and he's raising funds. Would you like to speak to them? And I said, I have done a lot of investments, and I think I am out of that cash now, right now. So I don't think I should do more. I've been a very, very active investing journey, and that amazing company kind of IPO'd on Nasdaq recently. You know that, so
It's
Freshness.
called Freshworks.
So Freshworks, and I mean, if you just add these two companies, I think uh, you know. That was big, big misses. But again, there are many more. So I mean, in some cases, I didn't even go and listen to the pitch because or spoke to the founder because I said, काफी investment कर लिया, अभी थोड़ा शांति से बैठते हैं. So that's why I said that, that was one of the biggest learning, that you have to hold and be patient and not start writing check to every exciting idea that you look at.
And now how do you balance between writing personal checks and doing as seeders, right? So any kind of capital allocation you have personally in mind, that this much amount, you will put in individual personal small checks across US and India. This much you put through seeders, and this much you have reserved for funds.
So yeah, sure. So Cedars right now is not a fund. Right now it's a syndicate. And what we do here is that if we all like, I mean, at least three of us like the particular company, and the remaining two are not absolutely against that particular company, we go and do a syndicate of that for that company. And that's why we are very selective. We are not someone who would just pick up any company and syndicate that. We are extremely selective in that. So it is like a group decision. Unless a group decides, we don't invest as a syndicate. At a personal level, I mean, if it excites me, if I find that the company is great, I like the founder. So again, it's more founder driven. So for my personal checks, it's more founder driven. I will go and write a check. Seeders, as four of us decide, then we will write the check. Once we create the fund, all the deals that matches the thesis of the fund will always be done only through the fund, and I will actually also do all my investments through the fund. So unless there is, for example, the fund can is going to invest in India, and let's say I find a small startup in US, then of course the fund cannot invest. I will continue to maybe write a check to them personally, but apart from that, all the deals that we would like to do will go through the fund
And you
eventually.
are a LP in a few funds, so how do you decide which funds to back, right? And uh, what's your thesis there,
So as a
when
LP,
you become?
I look at the lead manager, and how he conducts himself, how he and his thesis, his thought process. And my way to find someone's thought process is not just a conversation. I will go and research his different interviews, his different content that he has put on online, the kind of companies he is invested in, in fact also kind of speak to some of the companies that he is invested in, then kind of make up a mind. And I'm not like someone who will put money in all the funds which are there. I would be very selective, and see what, is it at a broad level matching the way I look at a businesses, because this basically kind of, I'm delegating or outsourcing my way of my evaluation process to someone, right? And so yeah, so I mean, I have invested in few funds, like I invested in Sixth Sense. I think Nikhil Vora, I think, is, I mean, I absolutely adore him, and I respect him. I invested in your fund.
Yes,
I definitely respect you. So I think
grateful for the partnership, Abhishek. It's been wonderful, from the first to second, and
so
it's
the idea is that, can I
more like finding a
respect?
friend for me rather than a partner.
So for me, it's like, do I respect the fund manager? Do I
Yeah.
respect the guy who's going to take the decision? So I think the key word is respect here. Do I
and
respect the investor professional?
and
Yeah.
are you looking for learning when you are investing in as an LP in a fund, and what kind of learnings that you expect a fund manager to pass on?
So when I invest in a fund, honestly, I can't get much learning because I don't have direct access to most of the startups that the fund is investing. But I kind of, keep my eyes open to understand which companies they are investing. What is the broad thesis? Because as I said, for me, the keyword is respect. So if I respect someone as an investor, I would love to understand what he's doing and why he's doing, and look it from a positive angle. So I think the last 2 years, one thing that I have been able to do very well is come out of my biases. So, for example, I was not very comfortable with looking at companies that would lose money initially, or those are like consumer internet companies. But I think last 2 years I have been able to kind of cut down on my biases, understand how those companies work, what's great in them, because I cannot say that I'm the most intelligent guy in the room, and everyone who are investing in those companies are not so intelligent or are lesser intelligent than me. So I said, let me kind of forget about the way I used to think, and let me also try to understand how other people think, especially about investing. And that has given me a lot of learning in last 1 year. So I would say I'm learning from fund managers more as a distant observer rather than an active participant, because that is not an option, to be honest.
And if you have to summarize, three investors, either it can be angels or funds, who you have, immense, you look up to them. Who would they be and why? Right? Very, very specific reason why.
Mhm, mhm. So one, I think I told you a few days back over WhatsApp. I think I absolutely adore the kind of deals Wabha from Better Capital does.
Yeah,
When I see the deals he do, right, I realize that if this founder comes to me at the middle of the night and wake me up, I will still write a check for him. So this is the
yeah.
kind of founders he's writing check for, is the kind of deals he's doing. So I have immense respect for Vaibhav. I love the kind of deals you do. I think you stick to the theme. I mean, so strongly, and I think that is something that I need to pick up sometime. You are extremely clear about the themes that you pick up. I also I have a lot of respect for Nikhil Vora, and I see the kind of businesses he has invested in. And I think watching his investments, I have tried to understand about more on the consumer internet side, which was not an area that I knew much about, or kind of you used to kind of take interest into. But after seeing what he is doing, what he has done, how he has done, to some extent, I think he deserves a lot of respect.
And who would be your top three angels, right? Who you look up to, and
Okay.
why again?
So again, I have not recently, after I've started again, I have not spent a lot of time in angel investing, in meeting people. As I said, last 2 years I have been locked down into my house, so I have not really met a lot of people. So one angel investor in US that I have been observing very closely, in his deals, is one is Ankur Nagpal. I think he does some very, very interesting deals. I've also seen, in India itself. If I look again, my partner Pallav, I think Pallav puts very, very clear and crisp thesis about every investment that he does. And the last person would be, I mean, I don't think I have networked so much that I would have more people's name right now. But Rob Ness, I think, is very good in US.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. Thank you for sharing, your life, your insights, your mistakes very openly. Grateful to you for spending time on 100x Entrepreneur podcast, right? I think it's really opens up eyes on what anyone can look up to, as a participant uh, in the startup ecosystem, as an investor. You especially mentioned some key themes like long terms, right? And, uh, deploying your capital in a very consistent manner, not getting excited in one point in time and over deploying, but phasing it out over a long period of time, right? Thank you
That's
so
right.
much for sharing these learnings.
Thank you so much, Siddharth, for having me. Yeah, I mean, I'm in a very early stage of my investing journey, and thanks for giving me this platform.